The title of the show refers to a child's play, a game, rather common in Anglo-American context than our geopolitical one. Nevertheless, slowly piercing to our environment through popular culture, computer games, media. The game is based on imaginative process when a child or a group of children need to realize that the whole floor under their feet is covered in boiling lava. And their only way of moving around is by jumping from objects to objects. They can't touch the floor otherwise, yeah. And for us, this felt as a kind of a very apt metaphor to current political situation within the region, the way how people leaning towards maybe more liberal, maybe more left-leaning thought, maybe more democratic thinking would need to maneuver within like growing grasps of more authoritative political systems. There is this like inherent contradiction within the way how what the show represents, what the individual works represent, and how it's structured, because every game has its sets of rules and guidelines how to play it and how to navigate within it. And if we consider floor is lava somehow placed over our society, of course, like we use all these strategies and coping mechanisms to survive within our daily reality according to those rules, but also through a certain subversion of those, and through attempts to like find ways how to navigate around obstacles, how to navigate around conflicts, problems, but also pre-coded normative ways of thinking, feeling, sensing, understanding our, not just our current reality, but our history, potential for our futures. Floor is lava is about this like jump from one place to another, which is exactly this daily strategy we have to apply to be able to be human somehow, right?
And when we started to create the exhibition with Jan, we started to talk about like our coping mechanism with the some emotions we have at that time, or we started to talk about like mental health and other like things.
Certain things feel or are presented as like an area of our own subjectivity, of our own expression, but actually emotions are pretty much defined by societal conventions, and the ways how we deal with emotions is also somehow pre-coded within the gendered society we live in. The show is basically trying to like decode these types of like pre-existing conventions, which we very often don't realize that we somehow perpetuate. We are presenting two works or two installations of peace staff. One is a film following a narrative of a person going through a physical illness, specifically cancer. It's a woman describing how her body deteriorates during the process of this illness. And then this personal narrative is juxtaposed with with a lip-syncing scene from a bar where a trans woman sings to the people in the bar. And the bar looks like a normal place where dudes would go for a beer, but actually suddenly the whole context is shifting through that very emotional song somehow. We right away from the start opened a dialogue with the German artist Martin Maeller. His main focus is on the idea of finding a non-normative queer approach towards death and towards grieving.
For example, the biggest material he used in this exhibition is a foil, which is used mainly in the graveyards, and they are using like this foil to separate the ground and the light. Works of Petra Feriancová is called like Fabulae. She was like focused mainly on a metaphor of Hydra, an ancient like being in the sea, and she is like metaphorically connecting this ancient mythological being with the maternity. When you cut like a head of a Hydra, then next head will appear or grow. So and she's like doing like this bridge with the maternity, that when you are like giving a birth or giving a life to a like new being, something is dying inside you, and you are also like aging with these beings.
The principle of Hydra, so like this idea of a mythological being, every time you cut off one head, then more will appear. I would say also one of the like curatorial keys for the show itself. I think it's important to mention that this is actually a second iteration of the show. The show was originally conceived for a much larger space. Nevertheless, like this space of Trafó super nicely framed the whole situation of these like reappearing elements, or like almost like fallen off heads, which are allowing for a growth of something new. We were talking before about coping mechanisms as one of the important elements of the show, and of course we can't somehow avoid the issue of addictions, or not necessarily addictions, but like this type of like casual alcoholism or casual drug intake or casual whatever. So within the show we have a work by Czech artist Hynek. The work is called Untitled Howl. We can see on this CGI video a sequence depicting a sleeping dog. The video is made on a basis of motion capture of Hynek's face and Hynek's body moving in the space, which is a similar strategy he used for a recent piece called Untitled Ketamine, where he was trying to address issue of casual intake of party drugs as a form of coping mechanism. In this case, he wanted to talk about alcoholism, which is much more widespread. The piece is trying to not make any like moral judgments about alcoholism or drugs. It's just simply stating the fact that this reality is probably so hard to manage or cope with that there needs to be certain external stimuli, and we all work with different types of addictions. Someone might be addicted to running, someone might be addicted to adrenaline sports, and someone is addicted to alcohol. our ambition with the show was not to create a singular narrative, to really like focus on just one or two things and saying this is how it is, because we don't know how things are and we can ever know. So we're just trying to create rather this ambience of urgencies which we feel like we wanted to communicate, and we wanted our visitors to be confronted with.